What's the deal with GameStop? GameStop investments almost bankrupting wealthy hedge funds on Wall Street from a bunch of people in a Reddit forum called Wall Street Bets. What is going on with that? And even though I teach economics, consider myself kind of a self-taught economist, and try to learn all the time about economics, even more so. I have a pretty good understanding of it. I was like, I am not fully getting this, seeing the memes roll through social media, and I posted this meme of Michael Scott from The Office where it had something to do with the GameStop thing. It's his line of saying, okay, explain this to me like I'm 5. And then I read a couple articles and talked with some other economists, people knowledgeable in that subject. Now understand it a little bit better, although there's still a developing situation around it. So what happened was a matter of short selling, okay? And these hedge fund companies often try to make quick money through what's called short sales. It's kind of like a reverse investment. You're hoping that the investment that you bought actually goes down. Here's how it works. Let's say that stock X is borrowed from a broker. Now you have stock X, and your goal is to sell stock X and then give back stock X at a lower price to the broker. So for example, you purchase stock X for $10 and sell it immediately, and then you wait for it to go down. So you have your $10, you're waiting for it to go down, and then you give the stock back to the broker, $7, and you get to keep that bonus $3. That's the difference. So now the stock was worth more when you sold it. When you bought it, and then it was given back to the broker at a lower amount, and those doing this successfully get to keep the extra amount, that $3 of profit. And so this goes on all the time, and often companies that are moving toward going out of business or bankruptcy that are on the stock exchange, you have like GameStop. They invest in those and hope that it will continue to go down. So a bunch of Redditors on this subreddit called r/Wall Street Bets kind of has a group of people making all kinds of bets and investments, crazy investments all the time, trying to make big money, but it's basically just, it's not a sound form of investing. It's speculative. Some people make some big money, some people make some big losses. And so what ends up happening is this group of subredditors starts to figure out that this, at least one big hedge fund on Wall Street called Melvin is trying to make money through short selling the GameStop stock. So they're going through the process that I just described, in principle, different numbers. And GameStop stock was under $20 just a few days ago. So this group of subredditors decides they want to band together to try to turn the tables on this big hedge fund in a very real way. And so they encourage and plan amongst themselves and others to start buying up a bunch of very cheap GameStop stocks. It's going to be hard to say. So they start buying up these GameStop stocks, thereby increasing the price, because when there is more demand, prices go up. Now, Melvin and other hedge funds were depending on financially GameStop to go down in order to return the stock to a broker that they had borrowed and keep the extra profits. But instead, GameStop's stock dollar amount went from under $20 to over, I think it went up to $356 on Wednesday. This means that the stocks that they were hoping to return, they now have to buy up at greater prices than they initially bought at in order to sell it back as quickly as possible. Now, in doing that, in buying the stock and taking a loss as soon as possible, that further drives up the price of the stock, because now you've got even more demand from this big hedge fund, Melvin, doing this, and they're taking a huge loss on these stocks. They're losing tons of money. We don't know how much money that they've lost, but they were given an infusion of money from other financial institutions, made possible through the easy money and credit system, the United States government and the Federal Reserve, and they were given $2.75 billion with a B dollars, $2.75 billion just to stay afloat. Now, probably don't have to tell you that the average person trading on the market does not get such a generous help when they are in trouble based on their own practices and decisions. In addition, short selling and speculative driving up prices is not a result of a free market. Oh, he has his ball. It's not a result of an unregulated free market, although that's what we're going to be told over the next few days and weeks. But the result of a heavily regulated market with a central bank expanding artificial money and credit into the system causes inflation. In addition, what has helped this process along, this overthrow by a few subredditors against a major hedge fund on Wall Street, which that should tell you how fragile the system actually is, if that is the case, that they're able to do that, and show you how highly leveraged these institutions are and the type of practices they follow, knowing that they will be bailed out by the US government, all these regulations and protections that normal people don't have. It made worse by the fact that during this last year, you'll remember there was a $1,200 stimulus check, and recently an additional $600 stimulus check. Now, a lot of people did go out and just spend those, or use those to pay the bills and all that. That was kind of the idea. But remember, there's a shutdown. A lot of places are closed, so there's not a lot to go spend the money on. So what several people did was they took the money, they invested it. And that's one of the reasons why you see an increase from this artificial infusion of money and credit in stock market, in Bitcoin, in now GameStop, because they're sitting on hundreds of dollars of government inflationary spending that was used to invest in these type of systems. Now, Melvin and others in similar situations, you would think, based on common wisdom, you would think, well, wait a second, they don't want regulation. Got more dogs here. They don't want regulation. They want less regulation so they can continue to operate on the basis of not having rules. But in fact, it's the regulation that allow them the context, the environment, the situation to have the rules written in their favor. And so they're calling for the freezing of investment apps like Robinhood. Their big institutions are not allowing trade on or further actions. They're limiting in GameStop. And the first thing that Melvin and other politically well-connected Wall Street institutions have done, after being overturned by some Redditors disrupting the market on them, first thing they've done is gone to the federal government, asking that they have regulations that protect them from such practices, protect them from bankruptcy, protect them from market disruptions, and bail them out if their calculations fail. And so companies like this, corporations like this, are not necessarily enemies of government. Sometimes government and corporations, I should say often, government and corporations walk hand in hand with each other and have a very comfortable and mutually reinforcing friendship. This is a regulated capitalism, or what might be called a corporatism, or in the technical definition of the word, fascism. Not in the necessarily the Nazi variety of World War II and prior Germany, but it is this regulated capitalism under a central bank that allows these companies to be a part of writing the rules along with the coercive monopoly of government that ensures they continue making money by following practices others would not be able to follow and would not be bailed out if they did. So it privatizes the profits and it socializes the losses. So we'll see what happens as this situation continues to develop. It is interesting. But it's telling of how, as I said, fragile the market really is if a few Redditors colluding together to buy up some cheap GameStop stock are able to overthrow a major financial institution. So, why are they following these practices? Why isn't there discipline in place or fear of loss? And why do they go to government to help regulate them in order to continue what they're doing?